Darkness, silence, an empty office, a lone man gripped by growing terror. Stories of nightmares and everyday horrors lurk among the desks and computers. 3 tales that will make you shiver. Shadows lengthen, the wind howls, the mystery deepens. Liam, a middle-aged man with a salt and pepper beard and a perpetually dissatisfied air, was an executive at a small film production company in Orlando. His life was a whirlwind of work, family, and hobbies, with little time for himself. Days started early with a steaming cup of coffee and a mountain of paperwork to tackle. A control freak, meticulous and precise, he demanded the same from his subordinates. That evening, Liam had stayed late in the office to finalize a financial report to be presented to the director the following morning. The neon lights on the floor dimly lit his cluttered desk, piled with papers and documents. Exhausted, but tension keeping him awake for the presentation. As he stared at the computer screen, he heard a noise from the other room. Intrigued, he got up and headed towards the slightly ajar door. A shiver ran down his spine when he saw a motionless figure in front of the photocopier. It was a woman, tall and slim, with long black hair covering her face. She wore a white dress that draped over her like a shroud. Liam stood paralyzed, unable to move or speak. The woman slowly turned towards him, a sinister smile on her lips. He tried to scream, but a lump tightened in his throat. The woman approached silently, touching his face with cold hands. Then, suddenly, she turned and walked towards the exit, disappearing into the darkness of the corridor. Liam remained alone, standing in the dark, his heart pounding. He didn't know what had happened, but one thing was certain. He had seen something strange. The shadow of that encounter haunted him wherever he went. He became nervous and irritable, and his work suffered. His colleagues started to worry, but he didn't confide in anyone. Despite the terror, Liam was obsessed with what he had seen. He wanted to know who that woman was and why she had appeared to him. He began to investigate, searching for clues, but found nothing. It was as if it had been a hallucination, a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. Days later, still shaken by the event, Liam decided to talk to Sarah, his most trusted assistant. He told her about the mysterious woman, her white face, and her icy touch. Sarah, a sensitive and intuitive woman, listened carefully, not dismissing his experience. Together, they started searching for a rational explanation. They ruled out the paranormal and focused on possible realistic explanations. Perhaps the woman was an employee working late whom Liam had never noticed? Or was she a stranger who had stealthily entered the office? The two checked the security camera records, but found no trace of the woman. They questioned other employees, but no one had ever seen her. The woman in white seemed to be a ghost, an unsolvable mystery. With time, Liam began to recover. The fear and anxiety diminished, making room for a sense of resignation. Perhaps he would never know who that woman was and why she had appeared to him, but he had to accept what had happened and move on. The experience had changed him. Now he was more aware of the fragility of life and more inclined to appreciate the little things. He had also learned the importance of having people to trust, like Sarah, who had supported him in the most difficult moments. The office was never the same after that event. The dark and oppressive atmosphere that pervaded it had been swept away, replaced by a sense of peace and renewed hope. Liam, aware of the fragility of life, returned to his work with a new determination and deep gratitude for the most precious gift: life itself. The encounter with the woman in white remained an unsolved mystery, but Liam was no longer obsessed with it. He had accepted the experience as an inexplicable chapter of his life, an event that had marked him deeply but would not define him. Liam was reborn, ready to face new challenges and live each moment with greater intensity. His story served as a reminder never to take anything for granted and to appreciate the ephemeral beauty of life. The sun lazily set over the chaotic New York, tinting the facades of skyscrapers with pink. Carol, with a sigh of relief, shut down the computer and prepared to leave the office. As the secretary of the gruff CEO of the software company Innovatech, her day had been a succession of phone calls, emails, and appointments. Carol, 32 years old with an insatiable zest for life, was the kind soul of the office. Tall and slender, with her copper-colored hair and joyfully sparkling green eyes, she was always ready to help colleagues with a smile. Her love for music accompanied her everywhere. She hummed while organizing her desk, dreamed of melodies during coffee breaks, and blasted rock music on her way home. The apartment she shared with her cat Kiki was her sanctuary, a small nest of music and books where she recharged after long workdays. That Friday evening, something was different. An unsettling sense of oppression pervaded the deserted office. Carol looked around nervously. The once reassuring neon lights now cast sinister shadows on the furniture. A metallic noise echoed from upstairs. Driven by uncontrollable curiosity, Carol cautiously climbed the stairs. Darkness enveloped the CEO's office. Only a thin strip of light filtered from under the door. A shiver ran down her spine. She pressed her ear to the door and held her breath. A muffled sound like a strangled moan echoed in the room. With trembling hands, Carol turned the handle and opened the door. The scene that unfolded before her left her speechless. The CEO was there, sitting at his desk, head in his hands. His shoulders trembled, and a subdued groan escaped his lips. "Director?" Carol asked, her voice barely audible. The man raised his head. His face was pale and streaked with tears. "Help me, Carol," he whispered. "Please, help me." Carol approached the director, concerned. "What's wrong?" she asked. The man took a deep breath and began to speak. His words were confused and fragmented, but Carol understood the essence. The director had fallen victim to blackmail. Someone had threatened to reveal a dark secret, something that could destroy his career and reputation. He was desperate, unsure whom to turn to. He had contemplated suicide, but then had an idea. "Carol, I know you're an honest and reliable person," the director said. "The only one I can trust." Carol was shocked. She didn't know what to say or do. "Please, Carol," the director pleaded. "Help me find who's blackmailing me. I promise I'll be grateful forever." Carol remained silent for a few minutes, weighing her options. She knew it would be a risk, but she couldn't let the director take his own life. "Okay," she finally said. "I'll help you." Carol and the director began to investigate. They tried to trace the origin of the threats, but without success. The blackmailer seemed like a ghost, invisible and elusive. Tension grew every day. Carol was consumed by the search, barely sleeping and eating little. Her cat Kiki was the only company she had left. One day, Carol received an anonymous phone call. The voice on the other end of the line instructed her to go to a secluded location, threatening to reveal the director's secret if she didn't comply. Carol was terrified, but she knew she couldn't back down. She had given her word to the director and couldn't betray him. She went to the appointment with her heart pounding. The location was an abandoned warehouse, dark and gloomy. Carol looked around, trembling with fear. Suddenly, a hooded figure emerged from the shadows. "Finally, you've arrived," said the figure with a distorted voice. Carol tried to speak, but fear choked her words. "Did you bring what I asked for?" the figure inquired. Carol nodded and handed the figure an envelope containing a substantial amount of money. "Good," said the figure. "Now go away and never show your face again." Carol turned and ran without looking back. She was still terrified, but she knew she had done the right thing. The next day, Carol went to the director's office. She was ready to tell him everything that had happened. The director listened attentively, then smiled at her. "Thank you, Carol," he said. "You were truly courageous." "It was nothing," Carol replied. "I'm just glad I could help." The director shook her hand. "You're a truly special person, Carol," he said. I don't know what I would have done without you." The neon lights in the Oklahoma City office pulsed wearily, casting reflections on cluttered desks and now cold coffee cups. It was just past 2 in the morning, and the only living soul was Donna, a 30-year-old perennially dissatisfied member of the financial team. Her stern gaze fixed on the photo of Stacy, the cheerful colleague recently promoted, displayed on the Excellences of the Month board. A mocking smile curled her lips. "Same old story," muttered Donna, crushing a cigarette in the ashtray. "She, the boss's pet, gets everything she wants." A wave of resentment engulfed her. Despite her dedication and straightforward character, she had never been considered for a promotion. In fact, another reprimand for insubordination was freshly printed on her desk. A sudden noise made her jump. She stiffened, staring into the darkness of the office. A shadow darted between stacks of piled files in a corner. Her heart began to race wildly. "Is anyone there?" she asked with a trembling voice. Silence was her only answer. Donna rose slowly, gripping the pen that served as an improbable weapon. She approached the dark corner, ready to face the unknown. A cold sigh brushed her neck. She turned abruptly but saw nothing. A shiver ran down her spine. "Who's there?" she shouted, her voice broken by fear. A muffled thud came from Stacy's office. Donna hesitated for a moment, then pushed courageously towards the slightly open door. The room was plunged into darkness, except for the dim light of Stacy's still-lit computer. A strange, acrid smell permeated the air. Donna approached cautiously, trembling from head to toe. A piercing scream tore through her ears. She brought her hands to her lips to stifle a scream of horror. In front of her, Stacy lay sprawled on the floor, her face twisted in a grimace of terror. A trail of blood spread on the carpet, forming a gruesome pattern. Donna staggered backward, her stomach contracting. In that moment, Stacy's photo on the board fell on her, the shattered glass scratching her hand. A crumpled note slipped out of the frame. She picked it up with trembling hands and read the words scrawled in black ink. "Next time, it's your turn." Donna felt the ground give way beneath her feet. The office was empty again, as silent as a tomb. Only her labored breath broke the eerie quiet. What had happened? Who had killed Stacy? And why that threatening message directed at her? Donna had no answers, only a certainty. Her life would never be the same. From that day, the office turned into a waking nightmare. Every shadow, every sound became an omen of death. Donna was haunted by the vision of Stacy's corpse and the terror of being the next victim. Isolated and consumed by paranoia, Donna began to investigate on her own. She uncovered unspeakable secrets about her colleagues, hidden rivalries, and dormant vendettas. Each of them seemed to have a motive to kill Stacy. But the truth was even darker and more terrifying than she could imagine. A conspiracy devised by a diabolical mind, a perverse power play that would lead her to the brink of madness. The Oklahoma City office, once a place of routine and banality, had transformed into a theater of psychological horror where reality blurred with paranoia and survival became a bloodbath game. Donna found herself engulfed in an endless vortex of terror, a nightmare from which she would never emerge unscathed. The agonizing screams dissolve into silence. Dim light illuminates an empty office, a silent witness to the horrors recounted. A shiver of terror still permeates the air, but a smile begins to play on your lips. You have survived these stories, but the terror is never truly over. Subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell. New dark tales await you. Don't miss them.